Good morning. Good morning. Who was first today for YouTube? Let's see. Who was it? Crispy briskets. I'm going to say blanket. Crispy biscuit. Made it again. Hello, Kevin, Carrie, Blue, Renee, Brother Geek, and hope all is well. You're up early. It's 9:43 on the blog. Hello to Morgan as well. Hello to Michelle, watching on Facebook. Hello to Shonda. Hope all is well. But this is the more important countdown, right, that we're going to get to. And that is, of course, the countdown to winter, 82 days and counting before we get to the winter solstice. All right, just kind of update you guys on that. So what's the game plan today? I'm going to cover just some of the latest information and give you a bit of a nugget. I'm going to really treat this as part one of my feelings on October. I'll do part two later this week or perhaps on Saturday. I am here on Saturday, so I may tackle it then. I'll let you know. Either way, I'm kind of going to plan is to split this into two parts to try to get a full grasp there of the trends, because the data has not been great. And there's two pieces of data that I use every single year, especially in winter forecasting, and they are down. They were shut down earlier this year. So I'm hoping that the data centers will be back up here soon. That's a key point. I could still make things happen on that end, but still, it'd be nice to have it. Anyway, I digress. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm waving to Rogers Brian Good in case you didn't know. And it's your first time here, welcome. This is our weather community here on the chat side. If you're watching on streaming, you probably have no idea who I'm referring to. You can only see those comments on YouTube, Facebook, and X that fly on by. And sometimes even on Twitch, we'll get a few folks on there as well. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to cover just the quick update on how things are trending this week. If anything's changed, not a whole lot will. And then we get into really the start of some very subtle changes as we head into next week that leads into bigger ones down the road, the way it's starting to trend here, right? All right, so let's start with the current view outside. We'll begin with the view from the harbors in Jeffersonville, looking toward the city of Louisville. Very pretty morning. Temperatures dropped to the 60s this morning, and we have more dew on the cars everywhere. And now we're back to, again, a lot of sunshine for warmth here today. Highs. All right, we made it to 88 yesterday. So we were 1 degree above the previous on Sunday's number. So we'll get close to that again today, mid to upper 80s. But we're about to feel the impacts of that stronger high pressure. It's about to move in. That will start to allow for the temperature profile to ease down a few degrees as we head into the rest of the week. So we're not going to keep going on up. We'll say, though, by the time we get into the weekend and early next week, we will try to entice or jump on board another climb that will happen. But that one will also be cut off of the pass with a cold front that'll be moving in at that point. So I still think we can hold under 90, but still very warm outside for sure. If you're going out during the midday, early afternoon, you're probably going to sweat, right? But you get it to the late afternoon. If you can wait to do your afternoon walks, the late afternoons when the air begins to mix, the wind speeds after being near calm all day jump up to 15 to 20 miles per hour. So if you like walking through the neighborhood with that nice breeze blowing through the trees, some of the leaves falling as well, kind of that spooky feel before you get into sunset, that is going to be your most enjoyable time being outside today. It will be later on today. All right, there you go. Just want to fill in some probably useless knowledge that I want to give you guys today. Here's a look at the satellite. A few clouds, eastern Kentucky. This is actually in response to Milda, but we may see that in far eastern side here, wave country today, but nothing to get too worked up about. Get into a wider view. You can tell they're the twinsies on the map still. Good Good morning, Christy. Would you say? Let's see. With the heat, we would have calmed down sooner. My AC died Sunday, so even though it's under 90, it's still not fantastic. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I tell you what, we've talked about this before on during the summer months, but when your AC goes out in the summer months around here, it gets hot in the house, but it's the idea you can't get the house cool at night to go to sleep, because it's so humid. That's when it's really miserable, right? That's where it's just you really feel the impacts because you don't have that reset at all. It takes a toll on you physically. So I hope it gets fixed soon for you. Hey, Cameron, good morning. When are we done with these 80s, these mean 80s, for at least half of the week rather than every day? We're going to see some changes. I'll explain coming up here. No doubt the first couple of weeks here are going to be the warmest. I mean, you got to keep in mind, last year in October, which I'll probably mention this several times if I haven't already, but October last year, we jumped up to 89 the second week of October. And then on the 17th of October, we had an upper low that produced, officially in the books, a trace of snow, but it was the soft hail, graupel. You get that under upper lows when you're only in the 40s for highs. So it wasn't a true snowflake, but it was in the process of getting to that point. And it was a quick flip from 89 to that kind of weather. So, and it was all mid-October. October 17th actually is when that happened. So you just never know. It seems like you're going to get into a very hot scenario and then it can flip in a hurry. And I think October is one of those months you got to always be ready for that. It is known for surprises. That is for sure. Okay, everyone looks good. All right, so let's dive into where we're at on the short term, and I won't keep you guys too long today. Just want to cover some of the basics, and as promised, give you some long-term nuggets as well, because you guys prefer those, I think. There are the twins there. There's the Milda hurricane now, as of about, 2 hours ago, became a hurricane. Humberto is still a hurricane, but now they're getting so close to each other, the effects of who's going to take over the lead there are starting to be being felt. Mainly because the way the flow is with that dry punch of air moving into the western side here of Humberto, you can already see it's getting a little more lopsided. So Humberto better hurry up, move out of the way soon, and it will, because Imelda is really trying to take over and destroy it on its western side. But for a while here, they will be side by side on the map. Still mainly rain impacts there on the Carolinas, but your highest of waves, your heaviest of rainfall, and the strongest of winds will all remain offshore. So that's good, but still the beaches will be a mess. You're still going to have a crazy amount of wave action here, but two systems in the Atlantic just constantly throwing waves on the east coast of Florida, the Bahamas, all the way into the Carolinas, and even up to New York. Dealing with all that, eventually, for the beach areas especially, it takes away so much sand every time. So they have to start planning for beach renourishment projects, and they pull out these big tubes that sit on the beach, and they start pumping sand and from the ocean to rebuild the beaches again. I've went through that many times living in Charleston. So even without a direct hit, when you start losing sand, it has an economic impact still. Okay, so where are we at on the stats on this? Well, they're okay. I mean, they're decent looking. They're not as, I don't want to say scary, but they're not as organized looking. I mean, Imelda looks better than Humberto does, to be honest. It's got a good canopy right now overhead. The outflow does, so it looks good. Humberto, it's hard to read these numbers, a 2, and Milda is a 1. But for the first time since they've been on the map, they are both hurricanes at the exact same moment. And we've had other hurricanes, by the way, that have been closer than this to each other. I think this ranks number 5, the 5th time that's happened to this level of, being friends. But again, Humberto is going to be making that curve. That's its track, curving a little more north than hard right, and then Imelda pretty much is going to be starting right here very soon and pulling away from the U.S. mainland. But what you don't see here, which I do think is interesting, is that there is a boundary that is being produced out of Imelda that is laying a boundary across Florida into the Gulf. Now, the problem with that, two things. One is that folks trying to get away from these systems may still have to deal with some showers and thunderstorms in the zone there on the edge of where this boundary is. And two, anytime you have a boundary over warm tropical waters for too long, it will start to get a kink into the line, and then it'll develop its own low pressure. And that's when you really got to worry, because it can then become its own tropical system. And there are some pieces of data indicate there could be a mini-me that branches off. Maybe it's Maybe it's their love child. I have no idea. But what a mini-me breaks off of this and could become yet another system to watch down the road. I'll explain in just a second there. Next name, in case you're wondering, is Jerry, and the one after Jerry is Karen. Okay, so let's get into the water view. And again, you can see the overall paths taken away from the U.S. mainland. All this tropical activity, whether it was Gabrielle, though Gabrielle did bend a little more right, but all the tropical fuel and heat being pumped in here to the northern Atlantic is going to lead to a block across the northern Atlantic. And I do think that's, once that is established, once these two get further north in latitude, I do think we'll start to see a little bit more of a pattern change for the lower 48, including here into wave country. But I think they got to get up there first. But I'm seeing signs that maybe developing mid-October here. All right, so let's do this day by day. All right, let's start with, let's see, what is today? Tuesday. Tomorrow's going to be only a degree or two cooler than what today is. We're still thinking about 86 to 87 today. I don't think we'll get to an 88 again. So today will automatically start a small drop. Tomorrow, even more of a drop. Thursday, a drop. And then Friday will reverse. We'll begin to go back up again because now the high pressure is over to our east. Now we've got a little more what we call a return flow coming back in from areas of the Gulf. But remember that boundary. Here it is, right across Florida in the Carolinas. And the Euro and GFS and even the ICON model from Germany has been trying to develop this into something. I think for us, because this is where I do think our rain chance will come from, we do have a cold front moving our way, but I think our next rain chance for next week will be coming from here. And we don't want this to develop, to be honest, because if it develops too fast, it will become, just to say, a tropical wave, worst case scenario, like a depression, but maybe a wave. It would quickly get pulled a little more north and head away from us. And we would be skipped mainly from rain from its benefit. If it stays weak, it can right around the high pressure and flow some showers right into our area. I would say as early as Sunday night or Monday, we could get showers from this. And this would be, some tropical like downpours that can move in. So we want it to stay weak so it'll go with the flow, basically not resist the natural flow that is around the high and move in our backyard. If it gets too strong, it will start to make that turn more north and miss us. But anyway, something I'll be watching in the coming days to see how this evolves, but I'm just going to give you some behind the scenes thoughts on that. The Euro, what it wants to do, by the time we get into Saturday, still fairly quiet. It is going to be a warm weekend. Mid-80s are likely this weekend. And then here we go. We get into Monday and Tuesday. Now you start to see right there, you saw a hint where it tried to pull it in. Here comes the front at the same time. It tried to pull it in before the front got here, but because it tries to organize a bit more, it's going to slide ahead of the front, head toward New York and maybe even Nova Scotia. I'm not saying it's going to be a hurricane in Nova Scotia or New York City. I don't think it's going to get that organized, but it should be a fairly decent tropical wave to allow for it. Let me back this up so you can see it again. When you go all the way back, okay, I'm going to do this slow back and forth. So watch, as I do this, watch the front to our west and watch the moisture there in the Carolinas. You can see how it wants to build our way, but then it makes that jog to the north quickly. As soon as the front moves in, and then boom, there it goes. Gets pulled in by the front. So it's really a race. Who's going to get here first? The front or some moisture from that tropical wave? I'm fine with both getting here about the same time. It would be great. So we can get some rain out of that. But that would be our next rain chance, would be the interaction of these two features. All right. The tropical wave would have more moisture to work with. The front would not have much at all. So if you want a decent rain to help things out in the drought, make a small dent anyway, you would want the southern part. All right, it moves on by. It's out of here. And then we get into some cooler weather. And what you can't tell here on this map, let me see if I can adjust this. Okay, good. I can. What you're looking at here, because of all these tropical systems, this is a massive block of high pressure right through here. It is a wall. These systems are rolling in, dropping in out of Canada. They're rolling on down. They get some fronts with them. They get into areas in New England, and then they just have no choice but to kind of stop and go back up again toward areas of the northern Arctic. And in some cases, they come back around and may just kind of do their own little spinning action here. This is a true block type of setup that is trying to show up. It's not on all the models, but I'm noticing it's a trend into mid-October that I think is interesting. And if you get one or two of these, especially ones that can dig down far enough that run into the roadblock, you're going to end up with a cutoff low that is going to spin right over our area, and that's really going to drop the temperatures down because of clouds and some showers as we head into about the second weekend of October. I looked at other modeling, long-range modeling, and some vary quite a bit on this block here. Some are very weak with it, allowing it to be a little more progressive, and we stay warm. Some are even stronger with it, but don't allow the lows to even dip down this far south. So every model has its own little story, but just looking at it on paper, I think that's an interesting aspect of it for us. So to recap, we're going to be watching whatever happens from the leftovers from Amilda. Can that get here by Monday, or will it go up the coast? Secondly, we will have a front moving in Monday. We'll have enough moisture with it for some showers, or will it come through mainly dry? That will depend on what happens here with the leftovers or pieces of Amilda. And then lastly, with the block in the Atlantic, what happens to the next system that rolls in? Will it get stuck in the Ohio Valley, the Northeast, or further north? And that will absolutely, all those parameters, all those little pieces of the storyline, the players in the field, will all determine how mid-October plays out. Did that make sense? Type 3 plus 4. 3 plus 4 if you got it. 3 plus 4. Again, I'm trying to be overly complicated, but I think at the same time, I think you guys like to know kind of the behind-the-scenes stuff of what we're looking at. And this is just my opinion. Every meteorologist is going to have a different viewpoint of this type of setup, what usually can happen. But I'm just giving you what I have seen happen before and how it's an interesting storyline because in an indirect way, the tropics are guiding our fall. And in many ways, as we get into later the season, the tropics may very well guide our winter. So it gets wild how everything has a cause and effect. But Earth is always, I always believe the Earth is always trying to tell you something. The weather pattern is always trying to give you a hint. If you're paying attention, it will give you the help. All right, you guys are good. Okay, fair enough. So that's how we're going to get any change in our weather. All those features have to happen. They're not happening this week, so it's all next week. Okay, I did look at the temperatures. Let me bring this full screen. Look at an example, for example, the Euro. I showed you this before. This is each run of the Euro. Each day it runs. I don't know why that pops in. Sorry. Each day it runs with an update on temperature forecast, and it puts the most recent update below it for a long term. And there's your dates here at the bottom. The bottom numbers are the dates. And notice, well, first off, the current round of warmth, right? We're in that now. It started locking onto that. Actually, really started locking onto that up here, right? A little closer to 4 or 5 run, or sorry, excuse me, about 15 runs ago, it really locked into that. But the problem it's had has been the extended. These are all the extended portions of it. And look how it's been varying each day. And this runs twice a day. The extended will come out with 70s, and then it'll come back out with mid 80s, and then down to the 60s, and then 60s, mid 80s, 50s for highs, back in the 80s, and now it's back into the 60s. So it is really struggling with this part of the forecast. And I think it has a lot to do with the upper air pattern for the blocking setup and whether or not we get low pressures that clog up Canada to allow for colder weather, or at least cooler weather, to drop down. But the Euro itself has not settled on an idea. It's still bouncing around. So that's why confidence is low still until we see this lock in a bit more. And if today's run comes in with 60s again, and then tonight's run comes in with 60s, confidence will start to go up. But we're not there yet. But this is one way that we can kind of track that to help us out, okay? And yes, I'm going to show you this because, as always, I love showing the snow matrix. It updated, and not just one, but 2 of them now are showing at least flakes that could fly around November 5th through November 7th. They're the only 2, and it would be just flakes, according to this. So don't get too excited, but hey, at least it hasn't gone completely away, right? Could we be in for an interesting early November? No one screenshot that. I didn't say that. Okay. So there we go. The remainder of the 10-day, you can see we've got 87 today. Again, a lowering of the numbers briefly, raising them back up again for the weekend. And we'll watch what happens with the whatever evolves out of Amilda's tail there and gets pulled in ahead of that front Monday and Tuesday. And then we'll just kind of ease the numbers down a bit for the rest of the extended. It may be tough to get back into the 80s if that pattern holds with that block like I showed you. It would be tough. But all that has to play out like I drew. So good luck. No pressure weather. Shonda, Adam missed our. Adam, you were late again. If you have a note, I may be able to excuse it. Cameron, how is the polar vortex looking in the snowpack and other places to help us get cold blasts and potential flakes? Good question, Cameron. That's something that will be part of the winter outlook, but the polar vortex is just now getting itself organized into the northern part of the Arctic there, as it usually does. It's getting stronger as we get, especially in October. I will say that snow has been building more in areas that it does count for us, like in Siberia, but there are trends that may show that it may shut off soon instead of continuing through October, and that would throw a wrench. It needs to continue to snow in Siberia to have a bigger player for us by the time we get to the winter forecast and Halloween. If it shuts off soon, then it really wouldn't matter. Almost like when we get rain and then we go into a drought, well, that rain didn't matter. Kind of the same idea with this. So we are watching the other parts of the area, Cameron, I promise. But right now, it's a little too early, But snow is increasing across the globe. I do think the Rockies and northern United States and a good chunk of Canada, we'll be talking a lot about that in the next couple of weeks. So it should be a good sign that changes are coming. All right, everyone. Appreciate it. It's almost 4 after 10 on this Tuesday. I got to run. Thanks for watching. As always, you guys are awesome. I wouldn't be here if you guys weren't watching. So thank you for doing that. And I will be back on midday coming up at 11 a.m. Take care, everyone.